So here's MAR, the MAR mixer from NANO Modules. Let's check out what's to come in the video before we get into it. So MAR is a simple two-sided 8-input mixer. We have an X side, which is these 4 white knobs to control their levels, and 4 inputs. We get the positive normal phase output for the X side and the phase inverted negative X output. The Y side just sums these signals together with no level control. So we have 4 Y inputs and a Y output and a global level control. We also got an X plus Y if we want to sum up to 8 signals together as well. There's a nifty trick on board in that the normal phase X plus output normals to Y input 1. So if you want to mix 4 signals together, come out of the Y output and have master control of the gain and even add some more signals on Y inputs 2 through 4, you can do. Great sounding, high quality little mixer. Let's get into some patches. So to get going, here's a nice simple patch mixed together in the MAR, and I'm also going to show you how the X output normals to the Y side so we get global gain control. Now pulling out this for now, I have a kick, a bass line and some hi-hats on this X side. And by default, the normal positive X output normals up to Y input 1. Always present unless we plug something in, meaning we can come out of that Y output and have a final gain control over the whole mix, rather than just these individual controls on the X side and our positive and negative or normal phase and inverted phase versions on the X side. So Y output, the X side normal in to input 1. If I plug in to input 1 on the Y side, cuts the normaling. I can also continue to mix onto this Y side while there's still normals. So X side normal to Y1, and then plugging in other sounds, it will continue to sum these together. So just a little trick there to show you how the X side normals to the Y side and simply mixing 4 signals together with master gain control. So in this patch, I'm using the X side as a basic mixer for my audio sources and the Y side to create a send and return effect. So follow the cables and explain the patch. My inputs are to this X side. Let's listen to each one. This granular loop on input 1. Percussion on 2. And low end kick bass thing on 3. Now my output is this blue stackable, the X plus Y out, going to be recorded. Now the red cables is how I've created the send effect. I've taken the X mix, so the mix of these 3 sounds, split them on this stackable cable, so the X mix comes out into the Erica Synths effects, the Black Hole DSP2, and also to the crush delay. Both the Erica effects and the Bufacco effects come into the Y side, and because the gain of all the Y inputs is controlled by this knob up top, that simply becomes my effects level, and coming out of X plus Y mixes my sounds and the effects. It creates a nice send and return. So here the MAR is the central mixer and kind of hub of everything that's going on. I'll turn down this secondary layer, which we'll get to in a second. Turn down the modulation, open up my filter, and go through what's going on. My main wave is X input 1. There's then a sub-processed version, an interval from another oscillator, and some noise. Then the X output is feeding a filter. There's turning down that filter. The Y side is handling the CV, and I have an LFO, some sample and hold, and some audio rate modulation. And it's great that all three of those are globally level controlled by the Y, because I can jam on the overall complex modulation of this filter without kind of tweaking the levels in any way. They're just summed together, and that Y input controls the overall modulation of my filter, because the Y input feeds a cutoff CV. So turning up the filter's cutoff, let's turn up that modulation. You can hear all three of those working together: LFO, audio rate modulation, sample and hold. So that's the main part of the patch, but I took the inverted X output, fed that through some distortion, delay and reverb, and then took the X plus Y, so all of the audio on X, the audio rate modulation, the LFO and the sample and hold on the Y, and fed that into lots of modulation on this delay, distortion and reverb, creating a really messy, distorted, grimy kind of background to the patch. I ran all that through a VCA, have an envelope triggered in time with the sample and hold modulation, opening that VCA. It gives us this kind of distant, kind of effect background hit, if you like. Lots of audio rate modulation, and it's nice to just get this kind of off-kilter dissonant reverb hit happening at the same time as everything else. So this patch is feedback central in that I've got the Pico drums coming into X1 on the MAR, but it's going into the crush delay from Bafaco with its send and return feedback loop going into the Black Hole DSP2 from Erica Sims, back to the crush delay. And then on the Y side, I'm using the spare right output, this patch is mono, into the Y side of the MAR, as well as sending the input from the XY output into the Black Hole DSP as well. And through this split cable, we're going into the 2HP filter, and that's what we're recording. I've also got some hi-hats on this Y side through some other effects. So when I turn this up, we're going to increase the gain on this feedback loop, introduce this other hi-hat sound, and it just becomes this jammable feedback performance thing. And it's really good at it. The X2 input is just my kick. So let's have a quick jam. I'll twiddle the high pass filter and this Y control to control the feedback loop and this affected hi-hat percussion line coming in. Really nice for transitional stuff with that filter and the feedback loop. Once that feedback loop's been introduced around this DSP, it kind of trails over nicely into the feedback loop coming back on the crush delay. So even when I turn that Y input right back down, we still get this nice kind of trail. It works really well as this kind of riser and downfall, uplifter, downfaller effect. So to finish with, I wanted to create a patch that uses this X and Y side on the MAR differently. We've used the X side for audio so far and the Y side for CV, or we've used them both for audio. So what I've done here is use all of these green cables, this Y side for audio. So I have no level control over each input, but I do have a global level for all of the Y side. The X side I'm now using to mix CV signals. And these are going to control a VCA, which is letting another sound come together, which will sum with this Y output. So my signal is the Y output into a mixer that I'm recording, and also a VCA into another channel on this external mixer, which is controlled by the X side. So here are my different signals opening and closing this VCA. And the signal is the black hole DSP with one of the reverbs really feeding back on itself. I have an audio rate modulation source giving us AM synthesis as we audio rate amplitude control this VCA. A looping envelope. And we can see the X output on this LED and the Y output on the one above. Have some in-time sample and hold on X input 3. And some noise on 4. So let's blend together these 4 CVs and create a modulation within this VCA that we like for this particular sound. And I like just bits of this audio rate and noise modulation, well, that looping envelope and sample and hold are the kind of meat and potatoes, the real weight of the modulation there. And we can of course kind of jam and play on this and get rid of these audio rate sources if we wish. Bringing the Y input back up to bring my drums and my granular synth loop back. So that's the MAR, M-A-R, from NANO Modules. The first module out there from NANO Modules, and I had the pleasure of meeting Jorge from the company at the Bafako event at the end of summer of 2018. They had a lot more modules in their case, so I'm looking forward to what they come out with in 2019. But this is a great, high quality, dual channel, dual approach mixer in terms of the control that I've just been using a ton since I got it. So hit like, comment, subscribe. Support me on patreon.com/DivKid if you like the work that I do. If not, give it a thumbs up anyway. Cheers for watching.